Welcome back to the Nobel Show. It's your host, Josh the Trader. Welcome back to the Sunday Report. Let's talk about the market. So as far as the market goes, we're seeing a nice little pullback. As I expected, made some daily trades that were really nice, set up some new positions as well. Of course, as you join the Discord, you can get all that information. I'm not going to talk about plays that much. Mostly what has my attention is a lot of the news that's going on. Although I will quickly pull up the charts here. We can see on the daily chart we're expecting this fourth wave to pull out. But I do think that, come Monday, we could see a bounce. If we look here at the hourly, we can see how oversold this is. And if we look over here on the 5-minute, we're going to see the same thing. Looks pretty oversold. Looks like there could be a potential bounce. We'll have to see how the news continues to play out, though, because there's been a lot in the news that we're going to talk about in a moment here. If we take a look at Bitcoin, we can also see that that I can't type. And so if I can learn to type, we'll be able to take a look at Bitcoin. And if we come over here to the 1-day chart, we can see that we kind of had a revisit. I actually adjusted this a little bit lower to fit this range because actually what looked like to be developing here was a rising wedge and a sell-off. Someone pinged that, but someone posted that in the Discord, and I was looking at the chart on their phone. It was such a mess. I ended up having to rechart it on my own, and it was like, okay, wait, I do see that rising wedge that kind of played out within this channel. So we're going to go ahead and just fit that in here. And we're still looking for this, the squeeze upwards to kind of pull back. I definitely don't think the lows are in. And if we also look here at the TTM squeeze, we can see that it's starting to turn over as well. So I think Bitcoin is more lows. Whether those will come in this week, I think if the market bounces, we'll see Bitcoin bounce as well. I still think this channel is holding up for the most part. I think this is the larger technical analysis that we want to keep an eye on. If we span out here to the weekly, it looks like a giant bear flag that this could eventually plunge down even further. So we'll need to keep an eye on that as well. And so overall, this report is going to be kind of short because I'm short on time today, but I do want to get some content out for everyone, especially since we've been so consistent. I'm working on several other videos, which actually, usually I try to do some preparation for these ahead of time. And I didn't this week because I was working on some other big reports that I want to do. And those have become such packed with information that they turn into multiple videos. So now I've kind of overloaded myself on different content I'm trying to produce. And so this ended up just hitting the low rung on effort this week. So I apologize, but we'll still try to go over some stuff, starting with the economic data that's coming out right here. We're going to keep an eye on mainly Friday. I'm going to scroll down here because Fed Powell is going to be talking. We're going to get some updates on the GDP stuff as well on Thursday. However, I don't think a lot of this is going to have much of an effect on the market. Maybe the initial jobless claims will be interesting. However, we can just see how ridiculous the manipulation has been here. Andrew Yang even came out and was saying that the government is lying to you about the numbers, something that I've been saying for a long time, that there's a ton of manipulation here and you can't trust those at all. Millions and millions of Americans know this firsthand because they're not working and they're looking at that low employment number and saying, well, that doesn't make any sense. And they're correct. So let's talk about what's going on in the news as well. On the energy side, we're seeing this huge conversation between the slowdown that's going on. Germany actually said that they are going to be closing some of the nuclear plants because they don't think it provides enough energy. To what their report says that it's only 2% of the total energy they use. However, if you look at the actual energy reports from the companies, it's something closer to 10 to 15%. So I don't know what's going on with there. I do know that politicians love to just make up numbers all the time. And so I think that'll be interesting to see how it plays out because they're actually closing it in the dead of winter in December, which is pretty troubling when you think about it. It's not favorable at all for the nuclear trades. It puts a bearish sentiment on the whole sector. I'm still long here because I follow reality, and sometimes markets can be irrational, but I'm totally fine with holding those positions in the long term. So then the else that's also caught my eye is that we've seen weed stocks and psychedelic stocks start to perform really well. And that's going to be something to keep a good eye on too, just in your peripherals. Maybe keep an eye out for that. Maybe there's some good research going on there. I haven't been able to keep an eye on it, but I've been noticing the price action. Something that looks like it's stirring up. So maybe we'll talk about that more in the future on a short. The other thing I want to talk about is that China said that they are going to go see Saudi Arabia. So Xi Jinping is saying that he's going to go to Saudi Arabia and have a meeting with them, something we haven't seen him do in a long time. Remember when Vladimir Putin went to talk to the Chinese president back during the Olympics. He had to fly there to meet him. Xi Jinping doesn't usually leave China. None of the CCP actually does, the Communist Chinese Party. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of rumors that sprouts, or if that makes headlines. It is worrisome. It looks like there's kind of like an Axis powers starting to work together, especially since we've been seeing reports that Chinese soldiers are now training and running drills in Russia. So that kind of adds this whole, it's very troublesome environment developing within the globe today. And remember, we're still headed towards really dark times, especially with all the starvation and famine that's about to hit everywhere, which we're doing, a whole separate video about that as well, that I've been doing some research on. So more to come on that later. But on the market side, it looks like there's still a bunch of squeezing going on, a lot of gamma squeezing, just a lot of, we did that report on GameStop CEO buying a ton of puts out of BBBY. That was, Bed Bath & Beyond. That causes a gamma squeeze, caused the stock to then rally back up, and we could see tons of that still playing out. If there's lots of shorts in the stock, then someone comes in, they start messing with the stock, making the market makers having to buy the underlying stock to hedge themselves against all the calls they just had to sell. And then they're playing that against all the shorts that are also on the stock. Suddenly the market makers squeeze everyone out of the stock. Then you get the halts and all the pain that comes on those shorts, which causes the stock to even rise higher. I think there's plenty of room for those to still occur in this environment where it looks like the market wants to chop, even though I'm pretty confident in the lows coming in for September and October. So just remember, when we're talking about the macro stuff, we're talking about the lows in the future. That moves slow. We still have to follow the day-to-day charts. Something I think over the past few weeks I've had to remind myself on, because we've had taken, before last week, previous to that, had taken some L's, not keeping that in mind. And so I think this week was much better, and I expect the future weeks to also be better performance as well, as we start to let that chart dictate to us the actions that we should take instead of sculpting out opinions on the market. I keep saying us, but it's me doing that. So that's something I'll have to try and keep in mind. So lots of people don't actually watch the end of the video. So I'm going to start adding some little nuggets at the end of the video for people who actually watch all the way through. Appreciate you. Love you. Thank you for that. One of the things you can see here is that DXY has exploded back to life. And this was really playing in for a lot of people's bearish theories, but we're starting to see that this could hit new highs. If the dollar manages to hit new highs, expect this market to get very skittish about that. 'Cause remember, that plays into a giant financial crisis. So this is going to be really important to keep an eye on. And when it comes to VIX, if you're looking for a moment of squeeze on the SPY, you're going to want to see VIX drop to this 19 again. And we can see that it's maintained the 20 range. If it maintains here, I expect chop here. If it drops below 20, I expect this to explode higher. Another thing I want to point out is that we saw TLT pull back a lot, which I think is showing the lack of a pivot narrative. All right, the Fed may decide that they want to do smaller amounts of tightening and do smaller hikes instead of maybe 75 base points. Maybe they're going to move to 25 base points, but this is not a pivot. And so I think the market could also be reacting to that, not just the news, but also the fact that the Fed is clearly not pivoting. We've talked about this. There will be no pivot. That Fed minutes provided the clarity that we needed to say there's no pivot. The dovishness could be from the fact that lots of people are asserting that the Fed will do smaller base point hikes due to the potential that inflation will pull back on its own, but that's yet to be seen. And when it comes to talk about that, we need to keep an eye on oil. And if you've been in the Discord, I've stopped trading XLE, which is the chart right there. Sorry, you can't see the ticker, but that's what it is. And then it's gone to USO because I'm thinking, okay, if the slowdown isn't as bad as anticipated, then oil demand is going to remain high. And right now, it looks like we're getting some bullish momentum here. Looks we've baselined at this 70 right here. I think this could finally push into the 80s. If the market isn't as slow. So we actually set up a little bit of a pair trade there if you'd like to check that out. With the Germany news, it's also important to notice that the market didn't like the Germany news. We saw this trying to pull back and it keeps exploding back up. And so this looks like consolidation to push to even more highs coming up for UNG. However, be careful here, because when gas does this, when gas starts hanging around at these highs, you can see how far it'll drop. It will burn a lot of people. So thing I'll also add is I've taken a lot of profits out of gas. We no longer are. I have a few contracts left for call options, but they're really far dated out, and I'm probably going to pull those back even more as well. I think it's like a very minor, like itty bitty position, maybe 1 or 2 contracts still left there. So that's what I have to add at the end of the video. And thank you everyone for watching. Sorry there's not much, and I'm low on energy because I was actually making a bunch of content before this, but I hope you enjoyed, and there'll be some more videos coming out soon. Lots of little shorts following other details as well. And I will see you on the next Sunday report. Actually, probably before that.